All right.
Right, Kayla. So it's just us ladies here now. So we are gonna fight it. Yeah.
Okay, I do have the option to share. Good morning, everyone. As Simone said, my name is Kayla, and I'm up here in Canada, which makes it maybe even better that I'm the one talking about puberty and hygiene and a little bit about sexual health, because guess what? I don't know any of your parents. I don't know any of your teachers. I'm not going to get weird if you ask any questions, so I definitely encourage everyone to, if they have a question, to be brave enough to ask it, because I guarantee if one of you has a question, there's more than one of you that's, wondering. So I definitely encourage that. Um, and you know what? I'm going to approach this topic just neutral, fact-based. I think it's really important that everybody has the same information. And I know, there's an age range, of girls in this group, maybe as young as 12 and as old as 19. So some different things will apply, or maybe you've learned, maybe you haven't, but at least everybody will have the same information. So before I start talking about puberty and hygiene and all that good stuff, if all of you, if it applies to you, could just like raise your hand on the chat. So have any of you ever had a discussion with a parent or a teacher about puberty or hygiene or sexual health? Right? I see a couple hands going up. 10, 13, 14. All right. Hands are going up. This is good. I'm happy to see that. All right. Okay, lots of hands are going up. So if you want to put your hands down now. Good, thank you. All right, and so almost all the hands are down now. There's still three up. All right, so now I want you to put your hands up if you felt comfortable having that discussion with the person. Was it easy? Did it feel okay? Did you have any questions that you didn't feel comfortable asking? Okay, this is good. There's 7, 8. All right. Okay, 12. All right. All right, you can put your hands down, everybody. Thank you. I just wanted to get a sense of how things work, because I know that there's people from several different countries. The kind of education you're going to get is going to depend greatly from where you're from, what your parents are comfortable with, what your teachers are comfortable with, your religious background, and a lot of different things. So, all right, I'm going to go to this. All right, so we are going to talk about puberty, and like I said, there's going to be some of you that it's like, oh, this is old news, and for some of you, this might be really useful information. And you know what? I wish when I was younger that I had learned more about this. So hopefully this is good for all of you. So what is puberty? So basically, it's the age or period during which the body of a boy or a girl matures and becomes capable of reproducing. But reproducing or having a baby is a pretty adult thing to do. So you don't want to do that before you're ready. So going through puberty doesn't mean you're ready for a baby, but it's basically the time when your body develops and grows in order to one day handle that adult task. So puberty is just basically the process of your body beginning to move from childhood into adulthood. So basically, it's just a sequence of events in which physical changes occur, resulting in adult physical characteristics and the capacity to reproduce. But like I said, reproduction is an adult task. So what actually happens during puberty. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening, but sort of the technical part of it is there's physical changes that are going to be regulated by changes in levels of different hormones that are produced by the pituitary gland, which is a small little gland in your brain. So that's the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. So when you're first born and a baby, you have high levels of these hormones in your body, and then they taper off, and then they return early in puberty. So early in puberty, these hormones are going to start to increase, and that's going to stimulate the production of the sex hormones, which are estrogen and progesterone. So the increased levels of sex hormones, primarily estrogen, result in physical changes. So that's going to mean the maturation of the breast, your ovaries, uterus, and vagina. Normally, these changes occur sequentially during puberty, resulting in sexual maturity. So that's the sort of the technical side, but what does that actually mean, and what is that going to look and feel like in your body? So your body is going to change a lot. So that's going to mean your hips will get wider, your body's going to get curvier, and you're also going to grow taller. Unfortunately, not all things are good with puberty. So you may start getting oilier skin and develop acne, and acne can look different in different people. Some people get a lot, some people get a little. It could be on your face or chin or neck or chest or even your upper back, and that's normal. It's kind of just the luck of the draw in terms of what kind of skin you end up having. So your breasts are also going to start growing. The first stage of breast growth is called budding. And I just want to normalize that it's totally normal for your breasts to be different sizes. And also for your breasts to be tender when they're growing. So even as adults, we still sometimes have breasts that aren't exactly the same size. Humans aren't perfectly symmetrical, and that's totally okay and normal. Don't freak out. In addition, hair is going to start growing on different parts of your body. So you might start noticing hair in your armpits, and maybe the hair on your legs and arms starts to get darker. And hair is also going to start growing and around your pubic region. That's normal. And how you decide to take care of your hair, whether you decide to remove your hair or not, that's okay. That's a personal choice. In addition, you're going to start noticing some vaginal discharge. So you might notice something kind of clearish or whitish in your underwear, and that is totally normal. Basically, that's the part of the self-cleaning process. So your vagina is pretty smart, and it's going to clean itself. So if you start to notice some discharge, that's okay. No need to freak out. It's normal and healthy. You're also going to start to smell more than before and have a stronger body odor. So what happens during puberty is you develop a new type of sweat gland in your armpits and in your genital areas. And all over your body, you have this skin bacteria that feeds on the sweat that this type of gland produces. And that's what can lead to body odor. And of course, some point during puberty, you are going to experience your first period or menstruation. So for most people, this will happen somewhere between age 11 and 14 or 14 and a half, although anywhere between age 9 and 16 is considered normal. So all of these changes will be happening in your body, and you're like, okay, what's the big deal? But because your body is changing, your hygiene habits need to change too. So hygiene just refers to the conditions or practices that are conducive to maintaining health and preventing disease, especially through cleanliness. And then how can you practice good hygiene? So bathing and showering regularly every day if possible. And you want to pay special attention to your armpits, your genitals, and your feet. So your armpits and your feet are going to be pretty smelly if they're not already, and your genitals too. It's good to keep them clean and healthy. So in order to clean your vulva or your vagina, you don't need to do anything crazy. You just need to use warm water and a mild soap. So you don't want to use any sort of scrub or antibacterial wash, and you don't want to douche. And if you don't know what douche means, it's basically a method to wash out the vagina, usually with a mixture of water and vinegar. Some douches are sold in drugstores, but they contain fragrances or, other things that your body and your vagina doesn't need. And, if you are using antibacterial scrubs or you're douching, you can actually irritate the vagina, and that could lead to infection. So you don't need to do that. You just got to keep it simple. Use warm water and a mild soap. It's also important to wash and change your clothes regularly. This basically helps reduce the buildup of bacteria and avoid body odor. So you want to especially make sure that you're changing your undergarments because they're close to the skin, the closest to the skin, and after physical activity because you're sweating more. And if you don't already, you might want to consider using deodorant and or antiperspirant, and that's going to help with the body odor that you might suddenly realize that you have when you start going through puberty. So deodorant is going to help with the smell from your armpits, and antiperspirant is going to help control how much you're actually sweating. So they're both going to help with body odor. And so the last thing I want to mention in terms of hygiene is you want to continue or start, if you don't already, practicing other forms of good hygiene. So that's brushing your teeth every day, flossing every day, and washing your hands regularly. All right, so because of the way the presentation is, I can't see any of you, which makes it a bit strange just talking to my screen, but I do want to talk about periods. So I'm gonna exit the slideshow for a second, and I want to go back to see all of you. You're here. Okay, so again, I want you to raise your hand if you have ever had a conversation about your period with your mom or your sister or an aunt, anybody like that. All right, some hands are going up. 20, 21. All right. That's good, because it can be kind of freaky if you don't have the conversation ahead of time. All right, thanks. You can all put your hands down now. You girls are great. So good at this. All right, hands going down. All right, almost all the hands are down. Still 7 up. All right, so now I want you to put your hands up if you feel comfortable talking about your period with other people. So hands are going up. No, I see a head shaking. No, you don't feel comfortable talking. No, I see another. I can only see two of you girls, and both of you shook your head no. All right. So some hands going, less hands going up. Okay. All right. So now, oh, I see somebody else now. All right, so there's definitely less people. All right, you can put your hands down. So basically, you know, the world makes a really big deal about getting your first period. And in some ways it is, but there's still a lot of, you know, like shame or stigma or embarrassment around getting your period. And I remember getting my period. I was 12 years old. And I remember going into the bathroom at school and I needed to change my sanitary napkin. And I was so embarrassed. Like, I was trying to open the package so quietly so that nobody else in the bathroom knew that I had my period. And it's so silly because, you know, I'm in a girl's bathroom and all girls are going to get their period at some point. And yet, for some reason, we still feel like we can't talk about it. So I really, really want to normalize periods because it's a universal experience. It's a sign that we're becoming a woman and that one day, if we choose, we are going to be able to reproduce. So hopefully, you know, this is something. Is there a question, Shalina? No? Okay, put your hand down. Shalina, did you have a question? I can see you, so you can shake your head. No? Okay.
No, I didn't have a question.
Okay, thanks, Shalina. Yeah, so I just really want to stress that it's a totally normal experience, and part of the problem is that we aren't told that enough, and for some reason we try to make it a big deal or we're embarrassed, and we really shouldn't be. And half the problem is that boys will also tease us about it. So we might not have even ever had a period. So I remember before I got my first period, I was in a bad mood, and my older brother, you know, was just like, oh, why are you so grouchy? You must be on your period. And it's, you know, part of the problem is that boys aren't educated on periods either. And I think they really should be. What do you guys think? Do you think boys should also be educated on periods? No? I saw a couple heads shaking yes,
I do.
and a couple heads shaking no. Brittany, did you want to say something? Saw your mic came off.
I think they should get educated on the subject.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share their thoughts? Yes, no? Thanks, Brittany. Jonas? I can't quite hear. Somebody's trying to speak. Is there anybody that doesn't think that boys should be educated on their periods and want to share why they think that? Don't worry, be brave. This is a safe space. Anybody? Okay. That's okay. Shalina shaking her head. Okay, well, that's totally okay. I personally think that boys should be educated so that there's less shame around, you know, when girls have their period. So boys aren't giving you a hard time when you have your period because your body is working. Periods can be really uncomfortable. You can be bloated, you could be cramping, you know, you could have a headache or back pain. Like we can suffer during our period. It's different for everybody, but you know, wouldn't it be nice if boys were nice to us
Yes,
when
it
we were
certainly
going through
would.
that?
May I?
Yeah, who's speaking?
This is Commissioner Cole from Guyana,
Okay, please.
South America. I just wanted to highlight a significant point. I am a former vice president for the Guyana Rastafari Council.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to point out what happens to the women in the community when they are seeing their period, and how men banish them from the kitchen. They can't cook, they can't do so because the period is seen as being unclean, and it's a scripture that is taken from the Bible. So with the period, women are treated so inhumanely, which for me is more dogma than anything that relates to science. The period is a natural process of a woman's body, and it tells you about life. But for the men, some of them in religious faiths, they use it to discriminate and to really attack women. And so I think indeed that boys should be educated, not to fear the woman. She's unclean, she is this, she is that.
Well, they should
They're
definitely
what is
get
called
prepared.
period huts. And the students can go on YouTube and research the period huts in countries where the girls are sent into a area whereby they can be bitten by snakes and all of that, just because they are seeing the period. So education and awareness to boys will help to change this dogmatic approach. I do not subscribe to the rubbish that a woman is unclean when she is seeing her menstrual period. So I just wanted to highlight how religion is also using period to discriminate against women and girls. I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole. Was there someone else that was trying to speak there? No? All right.
Kayla, I just want to say thanks, Commissioner Cole, for your input. And I just want to say that this segment has been sponsored by AMCO in Trinidad, Alston's Marketing Company Limited, based in Chaguanas. And they have donated some personal hygiene items, pads, liners, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and dental floss for the girls. So no matter where you are, we will be getting those products to you at some point in time. Okay, so we want to thank our sponsor, AMCO, for sponsoring this segment. And we also have another sponsor on board at this moment, which is the Unitrust Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago. So just want to mention them. So go right ahead, Kayla.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, which means I'm not going to see all of you, but we're going to keep talking about periods for a little bit. All right. You can see the PowerPoint again, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, so why do we all menstruate, and what actually happens during menstruation? So basically, you get a period because your body needs to release tissue that it no longer needs. So every month, your body is actually preparing for pregnancy. So what's happening is the lining of your uterus gets thicker in preparation to nurture a fertilized egg. So in that lining is going to be all sorts of nutrients that if an egg is fertilized, it's going to help it grow. An egg is then released from the ovaries and is ready to be fertilized and settled in the lining of your uterus. So if the egg is not fertilized, your body no longer needs the thicker lining of the uterus, so it starts to break down and it is eventually expelled along with some blood from your vagina. And that's basically your period. And once your period's over, this process starts all over again. So it's going to happen for many, many years of your life. So, you know, as Commissioner Cole mentioned, imagine if you were living in a place where every month you got your period, you were banished away. So that's going to be a lot of time when, you know, you're going to be away because you have your period, which isn't unhygienic. It is natural and normal. And if we didn't get our period, then we wouldn't be able to reproduce. So it's really, really a normal thing that I want to stress to all of you. And you know what? For some girls, they might bleed a lot. Some it might not be too heavy, and it might seem like you're releasing or, getting rid of a lot of blood, but for most girls, it's only about 2 or 3 tablespoons of blood. And sometimes you might notice something that's kind of like a bit chunkier, a bit thicker, sort of like jelly, and that's just part of the tissue that's coming out. That's also normal and no reason to panic. So probably most of you have heard, the term menstrual cycle. And if you don't know what it means, it just refers to the time from the first day of one period to the first day of the next period. So cycles are usually between 25 and 35 days. But when you first get your period, so when you're younger and you're still going through puberty, it's okay and normal to have irregular cycles. So whether that means that you get your first period and then you don't get your second one until 2 months later, or I remember there was one time I had my period twice in 1 month, and I'm like, this is horrible. But it's important to know that if your menstrual cycle isn't normal yet, that's okay, because it does take a couple of years, and for some people it can take up to 6 years until your period is normal and regulated. So probably this is a good thing to ask, or you've wondered about why you're having mood changes during your period. So experts aren't sure of the exact cause of mood swings, but it is likely linked to hormonal fluctuations that happen during the second half of the menstrual cycle. So ovulation happens about halfway through your cycle, and during this time your body releases an egg, causing estrogen and progesterone levels to drop, and a shift in these hormones can lead to both physical and emotional changes. So ovulation just means it's the release of an egg from the ovary for possible fertilization. So it's going to come from the ovary down the fallopian tubes and settle into the uterus and the lining that your body has been preparing. So then it's also good, maybe more of an answer for these mood changes that most likely all of us have experienced. I know I definitely have. So changes in estrogen and progesterone levels can also influence serotonin levels, and serotonin helps regulate your mood, sleep cycle, and appetite. So when you have lower levels of serotonin in your body, that's linked to feeling sad or irritable, and you might have trouble sleeping, you might have unusual food cravings, and these are all things that are commonly linked to PMS or premenstrual syndrome. I know that many times throughout my life, I've been feeling particularly sad, and I'm like, what's going on? Why am I crying at, this commercial on TV? And then I get my period and I'm like, yeah, that's why. So it's totally normal for some people. The PMS feelings can be worse or, not really existent, and it can change from month to month too. So that's also normal. So what else do you need to know? So it is normal. I want to stress it is normal for your genitals or your vulva to smell a little bit musty, like sweat, or even a bit metallic around your period, because there should be iron in your blood, and that has, a metallic smell. So if you have your period and it smells a little bit different than normal, that is okay. Don't freak out. It is also important to know that beyond the mood swings you may experience around your period, you will probably experience other emotional changes throughout puberty. So these could be things like the need to be more independent, or you might start feeling a greater sense of self, you're figuring out who you are, and you might start to have a sexual interest in other people. And this is a process that we all go through puberty. It's going to happen at different times for some people. So it might happen earlier for you. It might happen later for your friends. And that's okay. Like there's no timeline, there's no rush for any of these feelings. Right, so the next thing I want to talk about is healthy relationships. So I'm just gonna exit out of this again so I can see all of you. All right. Okay, so I just want you to raise, I guess it doesn't work this way. So if maybe somebody is comfortable speaking, I'm wondering what you guys think are important qualities or important aspects of a healthy relationship, whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a sexual relationship. What are important qualities? Be brave.
Good communication.
Yes. Yeah, who's speaking?
Quenisha.
Anisha, thank you. Anybody else?
I would say understanding, like if you can communicate but also understand them. Like it's not all about the communication. You also have to like understand what the other person is saying.
Definitely. So it's one thing to listen to somebody, and it's another thing to understand somebody. And sometimes it takes a little bit more work and effort to actually understand, like truly understand what the other person is saying. So yes, that is a really good one. Anybody else?
Patient.
Patience. Yeah, definitely. They're all tying in together. Anybody else? What's that? You're very quiet.
Question.
Did anybody else catch that? I didn't. Simone, did you hear that?
Yes. What was the question? You'd like you to repeat the question?
We're just talking about aspects of a healthy relationship. What are the different parts of a healthy relationship and Jaylee? Rolanda?
I think sympathy.
Okay, yeah. All right.
What about mutual respect and respect for each other's boundaries?
Yes, that is a really good one. Mutual respect is really important. To be able to set boundaries and respect each other's boundaries is really important. Yeah, you guys are great. You're listing a lot of really important things for healthy relationships. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now. All right. So those of you that provided examples of things that are important for healthy relationships, that's great. You guys have already done wonderful. So I'm going to go through some more. So communication, that was the first thing that somebody suggested. And it is really, really important. So everybody in the relationship should be able to communicate their feelings, opinions, and beliefs and be respected. So you might want to think about, do you feel like you can communicate honestly and openly to your romantic or sexual partner? Because if you can't, that could be problematic, right? Because you should be able to do that and feel good about communication. Boundaries. So another one of you brought up boundaries and respect. So that's fantastic. You're already ahead of the game. So boundaries are physical, emotional, and mental limits or guidelines a person sets for themselves which others need to respect. Both you and your partner should feel comfortable in the activities you do together. So the activities that you do with your partner should both be within your boundaries. So you don't want to cross somebody's boundaries and make them feel uncomfortable, and nobody should cross your boundaries and make you feel uncomfortable. So that's where the respect comes in. So regardless of the type of relationship you should think about what you want the relationship to look like and talk about it with the other person. So boundaries aren't just for you and your romantic or your sexual partner. Boundaries are for friendships. Boundaries are for relationships between you and your siblings. Those ones are always harder to set. I know I have 3 siblings, but it's important nonetheless that you're able to set those boundaries and that the other person respects them. So trust and honesty. So each person in the relationship should have confidence in one another. So if you're in a relationship, whether that's, a friendship or a romantic relationship, and you're questioning whether to trust someone, it may be important to communicate your feelings to them. Talk about, I'm having trouble trusting you, and I just want to have a conversation about it because I'd like to, I like you and I'd like this relationship to work. So when you're thinking about why you don't trust someone, you might want to consider, why is it? Is it something the person did? So did you tell them something in confidence and they told someone, or is it the way that they behave? Or is it even something that you've experienced with, other friends or other romantic partners in a different relationship, and that trust or lack of trust is now being brought into this other relationship? So those are things to consider. Honesty, trust and honesty go right hand in hand, and being honest is really important for communication. So each person within the relationship or friendship should have the opportunity to express their feelings and concerns. And if you don't feel comfortable being honest with someone, consider why you don't feel comfortable. Do you want to be friends with, or do you want to be in a relationship with someone you can't be honest with? That doesn't sound like a very enjoyable experience. Like, you want to surround yourself with people that you can be your true self, you can be honest with. So if you're in a relationship and you can't be honest with that person, you should consider why, and maybe you should, talk to a trusted adult or talk to somebody else, seek support elsewhere in order to figure that out. Independence. So you might be wondering what that has to do with a healthy relationship, but it is actually important to have time to yourself in any relationship. So that could be your very best friend and you want to spend all your time together, or that could be at the beginning of a relationship when you're in your little love bubble and that person can do no wrong and that person is, so attractive and smart and funny and you just want to spend all of your time with that person. But it is actually good to have opportunities to hang out with other people, your family or your friends, and to take time for yourself to practice self-care, whatever that looks like. And that's actually really good to maintain a healthy relationship. And this is something that I really want to stress because, it's not just when you're younger and you're figuring yourself out that you'll get into a little love bubble and, want to spend all your time with the person that you like. That happens as adults too. So if you're practicing, being independent now and spending time for yourself, even within a relationship as an adult, that's also going to serve you well. Equality. So each person in the relationship should have an equal say in what's going on. So again, this is going to boundaries. So you want to listen to each other and respect boundaries. I don't think anybody wants to be in a relationship where they feel like they are less than the other person. So a healthy relationship is about giving and taking. So sometimes you might find yourself in a relationship where it feels like you're just giving and giving and giving and not getting anything in return. So you might want to have a conversation with that person to talk about what's going on and make sure that both of you are being treated with respect and getting something positive out of the relationship and that you're on equal footing. Support. So it is very important that whatever your relationship is, that it's a supportive relationship. So each person should feel supported, and it's important to have compassion and empathy for one another. So you try to understand what the person is going through or what the person is saying. If they're going through a hard time, try to have compassion for that person. And in addition to supporting one another, it's important to recognize your own needs and communicate boundaries around support. So sometimes what happens in relationships, romantic or not, is that one person may need more from the other person. So maybe they're going through a hard time and they really need a lot of support. And I know that this has happened to me in my own life with both friends and romantic partners. So, you know, a friend that, you know, is struggling with their mental health really needs a lot from me. And you know what? It starts to affect your own mental health as well, because you're experiencing their sadness or their stress as if it was your own, and it starts to feel really, really heavy on you. So you also need to know, again, your boundaries. So you want to be there and you want to support the person, but if it starts taking a toll on you, you might want to say something like, you know, I like you or I love you and I know you're going through a hard time and I want to be there to support you, but you know, I have a limited capacity. You know, I don't have an area of expertise in the things that you're going through. So maybe you should seek somebody that is an expert in this area, but I still want to be there for you. So something like that. Responsibility. So this happens to all of us, you know, no matter the age. Sometimes we might say something to another person that is hurtful and we might make a mistake. Making mistakes is part of being human. The trouble is, even us as adults, humans in general, aren't very good at apologizing and taking responsibility for your actions. So you have to take responsibility for your actions and not blame the other partner. Well, I acted this way because you did this. That might be true, but that sort of dialogue or conversation isn't going to be supportive or create an environment where you have a healthy relationship. So it's important to apologize. And you know what happens oftentimes? You take responsibility for your actions and you apologize. You know, I didn't mean it that way. This is what I actually meant. I'm really sorry that I hurt your feelings. I hate that I hurt your feelings. I don't want to do that again. And, you know, sometimes it might just be a miscommunication and you just have to explain and go back and forth and understand, you know, sometimes what you say and what you mean isn't received by the other person in that way. So adults are also really bad at apologizing, and it's something that I have been working on, you know, my whole life, is learning to apologize, because sometimes we're very stubborn, and sometimes we're just embarrassed. Like, we're embarrassed we made that mistake. We feel bad that we hurt somebody, and then we don't know how to make our way back and apologize. But I promise you, if you start taking responsibility now for your actions when you've hurt somebody, you know, when you made fun of somebody, it's going to be a lot easier as an adult, and you're going to have healthier relationships. And that's, taking responsibility is great for further developing trust and honesty. Safety. So safety should be the foundation of a connection in a relationship. So it should be, you know, ground zero, the very foundation of the relationship. Both people should feel safe. So if you don't feel safe, you're not going to be able to set boundaries, you're not going to be able to communicate, and you're not even going to be able to have fun. So in order to do those things, everyone must feel safe and comfortable in the relationship. So if you're in a relationship and you don't feel safe to express your feelings, you know, take time away from the relationship or anything else that we've already talked about, you should seek support from someone you trust, because something is amiss, something isn't quite right, because you should always feel safe and comfortable in all of your relationships. Healthy conflict. So even the word conflict has a negative connotation. We think conflict is bad, but there is such a thing as healthy conflict. So if you are having a disagreement with somebody, you know, a friend or a partner, that's not necessarily a sign of an unhealthy relationship, because talking about issues or disagreements is normal. Because you know what? It is not realistic that you are going to find a person that has the exact same interests as you, has the exact same opinions, has the exact same beliefs as you. So naturally, you're going to have some disagreements. And that's okay, because communicating your feelings and opinions while being respectful and kind is part of a healthy relationship. It's normal. And this happens, you know, to me as well. My partner and I don't always agree, and sometimes that can be really hard because you think that you're right. But the thing with feelings is feelings aren't right or wrong. There's something you feel. You know, you can't control that. Sometimes you feel a way you don't want to feel, but it's feelings. So it's just important to be respectful. And again, it goes back to mutual respect and understanding. So really trying to understand people, the other person. All right, so see if I can exit out of this. Go back to the screen. All right, so now we're going to talk about sexual decision making. So we've gone through puberty, what's happening in your body. We've talked about what a healthy relationship looks like. And sometimes it's good to know what a healthy relationship looks like, because we don't necessarily have a good example of it. And sometimes we model the behavior that we see, but that isn't the best behavior. So now we're going to talk about sexual decision making. So has anyone, and just raise your hand if this applies to you, has anyone ever had to make a really tough decision? So just raise your hand if you've ever had to make a really tough decision about anything. All right, some hands are starting to go up. 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 12. Only 12 of you have ever had to make a tough decision? I think that's not true. 13. Okay, 15, 17, 18. All right. So there's more people, hands going up. You've had to make a tough decision. All right, you can put your hands down. Hands are going down. All right. So now put your hands up if you've ever had to make a tough decision and you made that decision and you still weren't 100% sure it was the right decision. So you had to make a decision, you did it, but then you're like, was that the right decision? Yeah, more hands are going up. Much quicker this time. It's hard. Decision making is tough, even if you have all the information. Yeah. Yeah, so lots of people. It's hard. You know, becoming an adult, or even, you know, as a kid, it's hard to make decisions. So it is, you can all put your hands down. Thank you. So making decisions can be really difficult, and that's a normal thing. And so when it comes to making a decision about whether or not you're ready or you want to have sex, that can be even more difficult because every person has different beliefs, different values, different opinions on the matter of sex. A lot of people aren't comfortable talking about it. We don't really know what we want, what it means. So it can be very difficult. I'm going to put this back up.
May I make a point?
You may.
Thank you very much. Here is where I will bring the law into the discussion as it relates to consent, so that everyone is aware. In Guyana, the age of consent is 16 years old. In Guyana, I don't know if that obtains for Trinidad and the other CARICOM territories, but in Guyana, the age of consent is 16. That means that anyone who engages in sexual intercourse with a person who is not 16 is committing statutory rape. I just want to make that very clear, that the age of consent is 16 years old. So in the sexual decision making, it has very much to do with what the law of the country says. As it relates to statutory rape, for our report in 2020, coming from the Child Care and Protection Agency, we have 70 teenage pregnancies. All of the girls are under the age of 16. All those pregnancies, so they were not at the age to make that decision there. So what has happened to them in law is a crime. And so we want to ensure that when we're going to speak about the sexual and reproductive rights, we have to ensure that we talk about the aspect of the law and how critical that is. I just want to highlight something that occurred just on the 27th. I traveled into a community to unearth a hidden pregnancy of a 14-year-old. She is not at the age of consent. And so a crime has occurred there too. And this is just on the 27th. But for the year, I would have unearthed 3 underage girls, 14, 13, 14, already that are not at the age of consent. Those are crimes and should be punished in a court of law. I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole. May I interject, Kayla?
Yeah.
Yeah, just Utalia made it also where 16 is the age in St. Lucia as well for consent, and Deborah has posted it's 18 in Trinidad for consent. Yeah, normally around that 16 and under, if, as Commissioner Cole has said, if the activity is engaged in, the person is held for statutory rape. So let me just mention before you move on, Kayla, that we just want to thank our sponsors. We have the Unitrust Corporation on board now, and we want to thank AMCO, Alston's marketing company in Trinidad, as well, specifically for this segment. They have sponsored personal hygiene items for all the girls, which will be sent to them at a later date. So in moving on with this topic, I want to discontinue the recording, right, so that the girls will be feeling free to, open up and discuss, because I think we're moving into a more sensitive topic, and they'll be feeling more free to open, whatever is shared here, obviously will remain here. If anyone, needs any further help or have any concerns, etc., we can, take it up, and give you that specific help if you have any specific, situation that you need help with. So I'll just continue the recording and you can continue Kayla, thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Clarkson, because in the group of girls here, we may have girls who are being abused, and this should be a safe space where they can reach out and let us know what is happening